Mama Nature here. Mama Nature here. Today we're going to make New York style, deli style rye bread. So here's what you're going to need. Pause the video to get a screenshot and then we'll start. We're going to begin by adding our sugar and our yeast to the mixer bowl. Okay, I've got my handy dandy commercial size KitchenAid here. And we're going to just start out with 2 teaspoons of sugar and 2 teaspoons of the active dry yeast. So, doesn't really need all that much yeast. This is going to be a bit of a denser, almost a peasant style loaf. That's how they call it. Alright, so we got those in there, and now we're going to add our gently warmed distilled water. And what I do is I just put some in my electric kettle, and I wait till I just begin to hear the sounds of boiling, just a little bubbly sounds. Okay, and we're going to start with about a half a cup here, and we'll get that all into the bowl and let that bloom for about 5 minutes. So 5 minutes has passed. We've allowed the yeast to bloom with the sugar and the nice warm distilled water, and you can see it's nice and foamy and it has a nice nutty aroma. This is perfect. So our yeast is all bloomed and ready to go. We're going to start adding the rest of our ingredients. I've got some distilled water here along with the extra virgin olive oil. I'm going to just dump that right in the bowl. And then I'm going to add the combination of my gluten and salt, which I just mixed together in here real well. That's going to go right in the bowl. And I'm going to give that a mix here with my spatula. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some of my flour. We're going to start with just about, we'll just start with 1 cup. So here we go half a cup at a time. 1 and 2. So this is unbleached white flour. I'm going to go ahead and install the dough hook. Raise the bowl, and I'm going to put this on about a number 2 or 3 and let that go for about 5 minutes. Yeah, that's a 3. I'll let that knead for 5 minutes, and then after that 5 minutes has elapsed, I'm going to allow it to just rise for another 10. The 5 minutes of mixing time has elapsed, so I just turned off the mixer. Now we're going to wait for 10 minutes to allow it to bloom again. I set the timer for 10 minutes and I get all the rest of my ingredients ready to finish off the recipe. It seems like an awful lot of time between the blooming and the beating and then the rising, waiting for everything to come together. One of the most important ingredients when you're making bread or any kind of dough is patience. You really do have to take your time. Just follow the recipe. Trust me, I've been doing this for a long time. You'll be very happy with the outcome of your recipes if you just don't push it. Take your time. 10 minutes has passed and our dough is blooming beautifully. Now we're going to start adding the rest of our ingredients. All right, this is where it's going to get really fun. This is where we're going to add our seeds, and what I do is I take about a palmful, which is a tablespoon, just like that, and I throw them in. The reason I'm putting them in this early in the game is because I want to impart that rich, crisp flavor into the dough. In the past, I used to wait till the end, and then I would wonder why the flavor was so dull. This makes a huge difference. All right, I'm going to add my egg, just like that. Beautiful. And then we're going to start adding our flours and the rest of our water. All right, now we're going to add our white flour, just about a half a cup at a time. On the #1 setting. Really, it's just like the stir setting on your mixer. So I'm making the smallest amount from that recipe that you saved. This is going to make 2 loaves as opposed to the 4 or even 8 loaves that I used to make in my home art mixer way back. So I'm going to add my last half a cup of white flour. So it's just a cup and a half. 3 scoops like that of white flour. And I've got it on nice and slow so that my whole kitchen doesn't fill with a cloud of flour. Once that gets incorporated and everything is moist, I'll turn it up a little bit. Okay, you'll see I'm using a whole grain rye flour. It's neither light nor dark. It's just an artisan way that they did it. It's whole grain. I'm using 2 cups of this for this recipe, and you'll find that some brands are very fine. So when I pour this into my mixer, it's going to behave almost like baby powder. That's why I went and I added my shield here to keep the room from filling up with a cloud of dust. Okay, nice and easy. A little bit at a time. You can see I'm getting some dust coming out the side. So we just have to take our time. This is a patience issue. All right, all of our flour and all of our water is now in the bowl. So I'm going to turn this up just a little bit. Probably. And we're going to allow that to beat and just knead for about 5 minutes. All of this kneading is very important because we want the right texture. It's got to be chewy and crispy, not crumbly.
After 5 minutes of mixing, you'll notice that the dough is no longer sticking to the bowl. It's all come together beautifully. So we're going to go ahead and turn this off and get ready to let it rise for 30 minutes. I'm just going to leave it in the bowl for 30 minutes, but I will cover it with a bread towel. I lowered the bowl on my mixer and I went ahead and I threw a bread towel on there. I didn't take out the hook because we're going to knead it after the 30 minutes has elapsed. So here's just a little tip while our dough is rising. I keep all of my recipes in just a regular 3-ring binder, and I keep every one of them in its own page protector so that when I'm ready to make a recipe, all I have to do is pull a page out of there and I don't have to deal with the whole bulky binder while I'm working. And because I have these hooks, what I'll do sometimes is I'll just hook it right on there just like that. And then all I have to do is turn around from my work surface over to here and see, okay, what's next? Just a little tip.
All right, now it's time to make the loaf. What I've done is I put some flour on my surface, which I clean very thoroughly without any chemicals. You don't want any chemicals in your food. All right, so we're going to go ahead and well, before we remove the dough hook, we're going to knead it one last time. So we're going to raise the bowl. And that's good. We just beat it down. Beat her down. All right, with well-floured hands, you can go ahead and get that hook right out of there. And there's our dough. Now, usually, this recipe makes 2 regular size loaves, but today we're going to make a big loaf because we got a special project in plan for later. We're going to be doing some Reuben sandwiches. Well, Reuben sandwich and a Rachel sandwich. I just learned that today. Wait till you see that. All right, so very, very lightly floured surface. What we're going to do is go ahead and pull all of the edges to the bottom so that we have a nice smooth top. And then we'll have a pretty actual loaf in the end. Okay, so we just push and pull. Oh, there we go. Nice. Now I'm going to roll it a little bit because this is the shape that I want. And yes, it's going to be covered with flour. All right. Here's a little trick. I'm going to move all the flour out of the way and just kind of lightly bounce it on my surface to get all that extra flour right off of there. Okay. Now I have a metal bread pan with a silicone baking sheet inside of it, and what I did was I generously poured some corn flour on here, cornmeal on here, so that when I bake the bread on it, it'll slide off nice and easily. The cornmeal acts like ball bearings, keeps everything loose on the tray. So we're going to allow that now to rise for about 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. We want it to almost double in size. While it rises, I'm going to cover it with a nice bread towel and tent it loosely so that it allows for the growth of the loaf. Now you want this to rise in a nice warm room. So today the temperature is pretty good. We're in the 70s, so it'll be fine right here. But if you're doing this in the colder weather or colder climates, I would suggest you put it in a warmed oven. You don't want the oven to be on, but you want it to be a bit warmer than 100. So if you don't have a warm place to put it, that's fine. It'll just take a little bit longer to rise. Well, look at that. In just about 35 minutes, I'll say, our bread has risen, double its size, and it's just beautiful. Now, while it's rising, and of course at this point before it's baked, you want to be very careful not to jar it or bounce it or bang anything, because it'll just deflate on you. We don't want to go there. All right, so I've got the oven at 450 degrees, and I'm going to take a nice sharp knife now and just drag it gently across the surface here 3-4 times, because this is a really large loaf. I'm going to do 4 times. And I've created a little bit of a wash here, and this is just some cornstarch and water, spoonful of each, probably 1-to-1 mixture, and I'm just going to go ahead and brush that across the surface of the bread. What this is going to do is give us a nice crust, and it'll also help us help to stick the caraway seeds on it. It's really just for looks. It's not important at all. But again, you want to do this very gently because you do not want to jar the loaf. You don't want it to deflate. Okay, now I've got the whole surface moistened, and I'm going to go back and put my caraway seeds across the top. And there you go, that's fine. They're pretty much going to fall off when you go and cut the loaf later, but it's just for looks for now. All right, we're all prepped and ready to go. You see how it wiggles? It's very delicate. Just going to go ahead and put that on the center rack. 450 degrees, gentle, gentle, gentle. Okay, now the other trick for making a nice crust is you have to add about 3/4 of a cup of water into your broiling pan while it's nice and hot. This is going to add steam to the inside of the oven, and you'll get a nice golden crisp crust. You'll love it. Here she is, fresh out of the oven. Oh my goodness. All right, here's the test for a good crust. Ready? You hear that? The dog's gonna start barking, thinking someone's knocking on the door. Time to slice into this because we're ready to do sandwiches. Now it helps if you have a nice sharp blade, nice long slicing knife. There you go. Look at that crumb. It's just beautiful, soft and yum. It smells amazing. So there it is. In just under 2 hours, from start to finish, we created this from raw ingredients, just from stuff that was lurking around in the cabinets. Now, if you enjoyed the content of this video, I would appreciate it if you click like below and subscribe to my channel. Remember, you can make and keep yourself well.